Hey, look, so the Ben Roberts-Smith saga is a long one. It's a big one. I personally, having been through a defamation case for war crimes against the ABC successfully, know that a lot of people and a lot of veterans are so frustrated by the fact that this has been a trial by media up to this point. I'm actually kind of enthused that this is going to be brought before a criminal court to the criminal standards of evidence beyond reasonable doubt and before a jury. And for so much of the grey area, the context, the information that's been missing, other elements that have been a bit dodgy on the side viewing, may be brought through a true and deliberate process. My issue is that, the presumption of innocence is something that I find is something that we like to say, but is something that is not well executed, particularly given the amount of media coverage that's been happening the last 24 hours. There's calls for his Victoria Cross to be in doubt, all the rest. This guy's innocent till he's proven guilty by a court, and every veteran, every Australian should stand by that democratic process. But Rob, what I look forward to coming out, and I'll leave it at this, is that there is so much context and so much information missing from the public of what and why we deployed our special forces to Afghanistan. It's not simply sitting back and saying there were rules of conflict, were they broken, this, that, and the other. There is so much context to so many of the missions, some of which I was on the ground with Ben Roberts-Smith for in Afghanistan, that the hierarchy, our military officials, our government officials have not come forward with the Australian public to tell them what they asked us to do. And I thoroughly look forward to that coming forward. I am pretty disgusted by the sequencing of this arrest. We're talking about alleged offences from over 15 years ago, yet the police with their camera crew are waited to do this when he and his daughters came home from their trip at Easter. They could have done this easily at home out of such a dramatic view, but I feel there's a lot of dramatic play being put into this because it is such a higher focus media point. But a lot of veterans are outraged because, again, there's a lot of context missing here. And I
Where does the outrage come from,
due process?
Heston? Help me understand that, because I sit here as a civilian, again, never served, I'm being very clear on that, and I go, okay, they must have evidence. I know you said it was a trial by media with 9 newspapers, but unlike your defamation case against the ABC, Ben Roberts-Smith lost his defamation case. You won. The ABC investigation into you was very flawed. And of course, we have that infamous, the 6 bullets, was it, added to 1 gunshot? So your case was very different. You won that defamation case. But why is it outrageous that these things are being investigated?
No, it's not outrageous they're being investigated. What's outrageous, Rob, is that any media organisation in Australia can label a veteran a war criminal, and the burden is on the veteran to take them to court in civil defamation proceedings, which unfortunately Ben lost. A simple fact, even after a royal commission into defence and veteran suicide through to deploying veterans overseas to wars since World War I and beyond, we don't appreciate the unique circumstances of war, and the respect to our veterans are requiring things to be brought to a threshold, which they have now, of being liable to criminal conviction, criminal standards of proof, and journalists sitting back and saying it's okay to just sling mud unless they can sue us on a defamation case. Where the outrage is coming from is that war is not black and white, and Afghanistan in particular is not black and white. And the number of veterans reaching out to me from Korea and Vietnam, like my grandfather, who say, if they seriously wanted to go back and have a look at war and what they're alleging these days, then they just don't understand the context of what actually happens. And that's not an excuse to break the rules of armed conflict. But we are talking about things that happened over 15 years ago, some of these allegations 10 years ago. There's
but
so
should
much
there be a time
missing.
limit if something was done wrong?
No, it's not about a time limit. Justice, we're all about justice. We're 100% all about justice. But Rob, what's going to be brought out is, so much of the evidence that's come forward in the hidden civil defamation case, I don't believe is going to stand up to the criminal standard. Taking a step back, where is this putting Australia and our people strategically? At a time where Afghanistan's controlled by the Taliban, at a time where recruiting is at an all-time defence low, at a time where there's the war going on in Iran. There's some larger conversations here. What I will touch on is, and I agree with the waste of resources for 300 million people to pursue me and some of my guys and Ben Roberts-Smith for the last 5 years, when you have people like the 2 terrorists who killed 15 people at Bondi who are not being monitored 24/7 by Australian Federal Police resources. Meanwhile, it turns out Ben Roberts-Smith has been. That's my issue, because it is the same set of resources being used to pursue our veterans as opposed to pursuing those who are on a watch list and have actively gone and killed Australians on Australian soil.
Just talk generally for a moment. I keep hearing this concept of newer members of the forces being ordered to shoot people. You know, what's the term, to get their blood, you know, like to basically get blood on their hands so that they've had that that experience of killing someone. Is that a real thing?
This was something brought out from the Brereton Report, and my comments on the Brereton Report is it's completely flawed, it's completely compromised, as was proved through my defamation case. ABC journalists were receiving information from the personally recorded sessions that I had with Brereton, hence them accusing me of shooting from a helicopter and adding 6 gunshots to it. I have no time for the Brereton Report. It's not worth the ink it's been written on. And this is, again, Rob, what you're probably picking up on. Veterans straight away will take an adversarial step to anyone who's coming at us against the Afghanistan campaign, because for the last 6 or 7 years now, there has been a whole series of events that have demonstrated corruption, manipulation, or just flawed outcomes in the system. Mate, even through to ABC being proved to have gunshots and everyone involved still having a taxpayer-funded job at that organisation. So where do you think that sits with veterans who have gone overseas, fought in these combats, lost mates, and now straight away there isn't a presumption of innocence? There's whatever the media reports until it goes through a process for us to prove our innocence.
Look, there's no doubt this is a media storm because it's a very high-profile case. But I'm sorry. So can I just confirm that idea that younger people joining the armed forces, they're over in a country like Afghanistan, they're not told to kill people just so they get that killing under their belt?
Never in my experience, and as a commander on 4 deployments to Afghanistan, blooding, as it was called in the Brereton Report.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. No, look, it's actually quite insulting that so many people don't even understand. Every mission we went on in Afghanistan, we went with Afghanistan Partner Force, Afghanistan Special Police. We got more intelligence from capturing people, bringing them back, deriving intelligence from them, handing them over to Afghan or 3-letter agency intelligence organizations to get information from them. It's so rudimentary, and the context is missing. And again, that's where I look forward to a lot more of that coming out, hopefully in a criminal court before a jury when Ben finally gets his time in court. But then again, who knows how long that's going to be.
The best place to watch McKnight Tonight is on YouTube. Help us monetize the show by going to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. And you can always become a paid member. That gives you exclusive live streams and early access to videos. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.